Maria Dawson had always been the kind of woman people walked past without noticing. Every night, when the sun went down and most workers left the naval training facility, she arrived quietly with her worn-out backpack and her old janitor uniform folded neatly inside. She was a single mother, raising her 8-year-old son, Ethan, on her own while working long hours to pay bills and keep their small apartment running. To everyone around her, Maria looked like just another tired janitor doing her best to survive. But there was something different about her, something no one paid close enough attention to. Maria moved with a strange calmness, the kind most people only see in trained soldiers. She walked without noise. She observed everything without staring. Even when she pushed her cleaning cart, her posture stayed straight and balanced. She avoided conversations, but not because she was shy. She was simply used to silence, trained by it, shaped by it, and protected by it. Every night shift began the same way. She would clock in, tie her hair back tightly, wrap gloves around her hands, and start her rounds through the empty hallways. The building looked different at night. Quiet, cold, a little lonely, but Maria preferred it that way. She didn't want people asking questions. She didn't want anyone getting close enough to wonder why her eyes never stayed at rest, why she scanned corners before walking past them, or why she always positioned herself facing exits. No one knew her past, and Maria planned to keep it that way. Most of the officers and staff only ever saw her with a mop or broom. They didn't pay attention to the small scars on her arms or the faint mark near her jawline. They didn't notice the way she carried herself like a person who had been through fire and learned to walk calmly inside the flames. They had no idea that years ago, before Ethan was born, Maria served in a world far removed from ordinary service. A place filled with missions that never made it to public reports, teams that didn't officially exist, and operations where silence wasn't just a rule. It was survival. But all of that was behind her, or at least she hoped it was. One evening, as she walked through a corridor, she heard a small ping from her phone. It was a message from Ethan's school, a reminder about tomorrow's parent-teacher meeting. She sighed softly. She wanted to go, but she wasn't sure she could take time off. Money was tight. Rent was overdue. Ethan needed new shoes, and the extra shift she had picked up paid just enough to help cover groceries for the week. She shoved the worry aside and kept working. She was good at pushing things aside. Feelings, memories, fears. Her life had become a routine of survival. But even in the routine, she sometimes felt the old world tug at her. Especially during the quiet nights when the building felt too still. Sometimes she would walk past certain rooms and catch old sensations, an instinct waking up, like a warning she could not explain. Tonight was one of those nights. A hallway light flickered above her, and the slight buzzing sound instantly made her pause. Most people wouldn't think twice about a faulty light, but Maria's instincts reacted before her brain did. She looked up, studied the shadows, listened to the air. Her heartbeat didn't even speed up. It was as if her body remembered a threat that wasn't really there. She shook her head lightly and whispered to herself, "Not anymore. Stop it." Then she forced herself to continue cleaning. Yet no matter how hard she tried to forget her past, it still lived inside her. Every skill she learned, every reflex she built, every night she spent in dangerous places with nothing but a code name and a mission. Maria Dawson had once been someone very different from a janitor. But no one at the base would ever imagine that. Most of the other janitors chatted about TV shows, shared snacks, or complained about supervisors. Maria stayed alone, always quiet, always alert. Some assumed she was unfriendly. Others thought she was simply too busy. A few whispered that she seemed strange. But no one took the time to understand her. Until one night someone did. A senior officer passed her in the hall and paused, watching the way she moved. His stare made her uncomfortable, but she pretended not to notice. After he walked away, she let out a slow breath. She didn't like attention, not even harmless curiosity. Attention was dangerous. Attention meant questions. Questions meant her past could resurface. For now, she just wanted to finish her shift and go home to her son, where she would quietly warm leftovers, tuck him into bed, and kiss his forehead. To the world, she was invisible. But to Ethan, She was the strongest person alive. And that was enough. But fate doesn't always let the past stay buried. Though Maria had changed her life, changed her identity, and planned to remain unknown forever, some part of her past still lingered, waiting for the moment when silence would no longer be enough to hide her. For tonight, she was just a janitor pushing a cleaning cart down a dimly lit hallway. But soon, very soon, someone would ask a question she never expected to hear again. A question that would break the quiet life she had built and reveal the truth she had worked so hard to bury. Admiral Harrington was not the type of man who missed details. Years of leading elite Navy SEAL units had trained his eyes to catch even the smallest movement, the tiniest break in behavior, the slightest sign that something was out of place. That was why, on this particular night, as he walked through the nearly empty hallway of the training facility, something, or rather someone, caught his attention. He had stayed late in his office going over mission reports, preparing for a high-level briefing the next morning. By the time he finished, most of the base had gone quiet. Only security, night staff, and a handful of officers remained. As he stepped into the hallway, he noticed a woman with a cleaning cart turning the corner. Normally, he wouldn't have paid attention. Janitors walked these halls every night. But there was something different about the way this woman moved. She didn't shuffle like most tired workers. She didn't drag her feet. She walked in a straight, balanced line, her steps light and controlled. Even the way she turned her head felt trained. The Admiral slowed his pace, watching her from a distance. She didn't see him at first. She was wiping down a glass panel, her movements smooth and steady. Her face looked calm, but not the calm of someone bored or careless. It was the calm of someone always aware, always ready, always thinking ahead. He recognized that kind of calm. He had seen it in the eyes of operators coming back from deep missions, in snipers who stayed motionless for hours, in undercover agents trained to blend into any environment. What was a civilian janitor doing with the posture of a special operator? He walked closer, and the sound of his boots finally made her turn. For a split second, barely noticeable, her shoulders tightened. Her eyes flickered toward his hands, then his face, then the exit behind him. A quick assessment, almost too fast to catch. But the Admiral caught it. "Good evening," he said calmly. She nodded politely but said nothing. Most civilians talk too much when facing someone of his rank. Nervous chatter, forced jokes, stiff posture. But she wasn't nervous. She wasn't scared. If anything, she looked like she was calculating how fast she could leave the hallway without looking suspicious. "You work nights?" he asked, pretending curiosity. "Yes, sir," she replied softly. "Just finishing my rounds." Her voice was gentle, but her eyes stayed sharp. Too sharp. "What's your name?" he asked. "Maria," she said simply. "Just Maria. No last name. No unnecessary details. People who hide their past often do that." The Admiral gave a small smile, trying to put her at ease, or rather, trying to see how she would react. "Well, Maria," he said, "you keep this place in better shape than the daytime staff." She gave a short smile but didn't relax. Her grip on the cloth in her hand remained firm, almost as if she was ready to drop it and move if something went wrong. Interesting. Most people reacted to his presence with intimidation or admiration. Maria reacted with caution. He decided to test something. "You've got a steady stance," he said lightly. "Ever served in the military?" Maria's eyes widened for a half second before she looked down again. "No, sir. Just a janitor." Her answer was too quick, too smooth, too polished, the kind of answer someone practiced many times. The Admiral had years of experience reading people. This woman was hiding something, something big. He tilted his head slightly, studying her. "You remind me of someone," he said, keeping his tone casual. "Someone from an old unit." She didn't respond. She simply picked up her cleaning spray and continued wiping the glass panel. But he noticed her breathing had changed, just a hint faster. Now he had her attention. He had met thousands of soldiers, rookies, veterans, commanders, but a few carried a special kind of presence. A presence that said they had seen danger up close, survived it, and learned to carry it quietly. Maria had that presence. "Where did you learn that stance?" he asked suddenly. Maria froze. Her eyes snapped to his, and for the first time he saw something flash behind them. Something sharp, something defensive. "What stance?" she asked, trying to sound confused. "The one that keeps your weight evenly balanced," he replied. "The one that lets you move fast if something happens." Her throat tightened. She hid it well, but not well enough. "I just stand like this," she said, painting innocence into her voice. It didn't convince him. Silence filled the hallway. For a moment, neither of them moved. The air felt heavier, as if both understood there was more going on than cleaning floors and making small talk. Finally, he stepped back a little and gave her a nod. "Well, good night, Maria." "Good night, sir," she replied. He walked away, but his mind didn't. He replayed every detail, her posture, her reflexes, her tone. This woman was no ordinary janitor. And for the first time in years, Admiral Harrington felt a spark of curiosity he couldn't ignore. There was a story behind her eyes, a story buried deep, one he suddenly wanted to uncover. Little did he know that this quiet woman would soon reveal a truth that would shock him more than anything he had seen in his long military career. Maria tried to continue her work as if nothing had happened, but inside, she felt uneasy. The Admiral's questions were not normal. Most officers barely noticed her. They walked past her without thinking twice. But Admiral Harrington, he had looked at her differently. He had studied her, the way she moved, the way she reacted. And he had asked a question she had hoped no one on this base would ever ask. She kept wiping down the glass door, but her hand trembled slightly. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, reminding her body that she was safe, that her past was gone, that no one here knew who she really had been. But the Admiral had seen something she couldn't hide. As she walked to the next hallway with her cleaning cart, her mind replayed the moment he mentioned her stance. It was such a small detail, something normal people never noticed. But trained eyes? They noticed everything. She cursed herself silently for letting her guard slip, even for a moment. She reached a quiet corner of the hallway and leaned against the wall for a second. She took slow breaths, trying to push the panic away. For years she had worked hard to bury the person she once was. She had changed her name, changed her identity, changed her life. She became a janitor, not because she wanted to, but because it was the safest job. Quiet, unnoticed, routine. But a soldier's instincts never truly disappear. No matter how much she tried to act normal, her body betrayed her. The way she reacted to footsteps behind her. The way she scanned rooms. The way she always kept her back near a wall. These habits saved her life once. Now they threatened to expose her. She closed her eyes, wishing she could erase the moment. But she couldn't. And the Admiral wasn't done with her. Maria heard footsteps approaching. Heavy, confident steps. Steps of someone who walked with authority. Her muscles tensed before she even turned around. Admiral Harrington appeared at the end of the hallway again, this time walking directly toward her. Her heart dropped. He stopped only a few feet away from her, his eyes focused, curious, too curious. "You're very alert for someone working night shift," he said calmly. I just like to stay aware," she replied, forcing herself to look relaxed even though her chest felt tight. He nodded slowly, not taking his eyes off her. "When I walked up behind you earlier, you heard me before I even spoke." She froze again. Most people didn't. Most civilians didn't even notice footsteps. But she always did. Always. "It's quiet at night," she said quickly. "Sound travels more." He murmured, clearly not convinced. He took one step closer, and Maria felt her muscles preparing automatically. Ready to step back, ready to move, ready for anything. She hated that feeling. She hated that her training, which she tried so hard to bury, woke up so easily. Then the Admiral asked the question that made her blood run cold. "Tell me something, Maria. What's your call sign?" Her breath stopped. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Her fingers tightened around the handle of her cleaning cart. Call sign. He should not have asked that. Normal people didn't even know what a call sign was. Only military. Only special units. Only operators who lived in shadows. Maria stared at him, unsure if she should run, lie, or pretend she didn't understand. But the Admiral saw her reaction. He saw the way her body stiffened, the way her eyes widened, the way she swallowed before trying to speak. "I don't have one," she said. But even she could hear the shake in her voice. The Admiral raised an eyebrow, slowly crossing his arms. That wasn't the reaction of someone who doesn't know what a call sign is. Maria felt her chest tighten. She looked down, trying to hide her expression, trying to breathe, trying to think. "You misunderstood," she whispered. "I'm just a janitor." "No," he said softly but firmly. "You are not just a janitor." His voice wasn't cruel. It wasn't threatening. But it was certain. Too certain. The hallway felt smaller, the silence heavier. Maria's mind raced. She couldn't reveal anything. She couldn't let him dig deeper. If he discovered even a part of who she was, everything she had built for Ethan would fall apart. She finally looked up at him, her eyes tired and defensive. "Sir, please, I'm just trying to do my job." The Admiral studied her face for a moment. A long, thoughtful moment. Then he slowly nodded. "All right," he said. "But I hope you know, you don't have to hide from everyone." Maria pretended she didn't understand. But inside, her heart was trembling. He walked away, leaving her standing alone in the hallway. Maria pressed her hand against her chest, feeling her heartbeat racing. She knew the truth. This was bad. Very bad. He had seen too much. He had sensed too much. And the question he asked, "What's your call sign?" echoed in her mind like a warning from the past. She whispered to herself, almost shaking, "No one can know. No one can ever know." But it was already too late. The Admiral's curiosity had been awakened. And Maria's old life, the life she spent years running from, was slowly creeping back toward her. Maria walked down the hallway trying to steady her breathing. But inside, she felt like the ground beneath her was shaking. The Admiral's question kept echoing in her mind. "What's your call sign?" It was like a ghost from her past had suddenly appeared in front of her, pointing directly at the part of her life she had buried the deepest. She tried to ignore it. She tried to push the thought away. But her body wouldn't let her forget. Her hands trembled slightly. Her heartbeat was louder than her footsteps. And every instinct inside her screamed that she was in danger. Not physical danger, but the danger of being seen. Truly seen. She turned into an empty supply room and closed the door behind her. The moment she was alone, she leaned her back against the wall and squeezed her eyes shut. She hadn't heard that question in years. She hadn't even thought about her call sign for a long time. It belonged to a different world, a different version of her. A version she never wanted to be again. But memories did not care what she wanted. They came rushing back like waves. A dark room, a command table, a group of elite operatives listening to last-minute mission instructions. And then the commander's voice calling out her code name with respect and fear mixed together. "Night Viper, you're on point." Maria opened her eyes quickly, forcing the memory back. She didn't want this. She didn't want her past to return. She didn't want anyone, especially someone with authority, to connect her to the life she had abandoned. Her call sign Night Viper wasn't just a name. It was a shadow that followed her everywhere. It was the identity of someone deadly, silent, and feared in the darkest missions no one ever talked about publicly. Someone who could disappear into a forest at midnight, who could get in and out of hostile zones unnoticed, who could take down men twice her size with calm precision. But that person was gone. She made sure of it the day she walked away. She changed her identity, became a civilian, and promised herself she would never let Ethan grow up near danger. She promised she would never allow her old life to touch him, not even for a second. She took another deep breath, fixed her hair, and forced her body to relax. She had gotten good at pretending, good at blending in, good at hiding in plain sight. But today the facade had cracked. She stepped out of the room, pushing her cleaning cart like everything was normal. She just needed to finish her last few tasks and go home to her son. That was all that mattered. That was the only thing that mattered. But the Admiral wasn't done with her. As she turned the corner, she found him standing near the stairwell, as if he had been waiting. Her stomach tightened, but she kept her expression calm. She wouldn't give him anything else. Not a reaction, not a hint, nothing. He watched her quietly for a moment before speaking. "Maria." "Sir," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "I asked you earlier about something," he said slowly, as if choosing his words carefully. "Something most civilians don't react to." Maria forced a confused expression. I'm not sure what you mean." The Admiral stepped closer, not threatening, but serious. "Your call sign." Her throat closed again. She swallowed hard, but her eyes betrayed her fear for a brief second. He saw it. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse her of anything. Instead, he asked again, softly, almost like he already knew the answer. "What was it?" Maria looked at the floor, then at the wall, anywhere but at him. Her heart raced. She wanted to lie. She wanted to walk away. She wanted to run. But her legs felt heavy and her voice felt trapped. Finally, she whispered, barely audible, "Please, don't ask me that." The Admiral's eyes narrowed slightly, studying her face, reading the truth in her hesitation. "You had one," he said quietly. "Didn't you?" She didn't respond. Silence filled the hallway once more. Thick, heavy, and full of things unsaid. The Admiral took a slow breath. He wasn't angry. He wasn't suspicious in a dangerous way. He was surprised, and maybe a little concerned. "Who are you really, Maria?" he asked gently. Her eyes lifted for just a moment, long enough for him to see the storm hiding inside them. A storm made of memories, pain, loss, and dangerous secrets. And then, with a voice so low he almost couldn't hear it, she answered, "I used to be someone else. Someone I can't be anymore." The Admiral froze. He didn't expect such an honest confession. Not from someone who tried so hard to hide. But before he could say anything else, Maria added in a broken whisper, "My call sign, it doesn't belong to me now. It belongs to a life I left behind." He watched her, stunned into silence. She turned away, gripping her cleaning cart with trembling hands, and walked down the hallway with quick steps. The Admiral didn't stop her. He didn't call after her. He simply stood there, watching her disappear around the corner, the pieces in his mind finally starting to connect. Night Viper. He breathed the name like a realization, like a secret finally uncovered. And for the first time, he understood. Maria Dawson was not just a janitor. She was something far more dangerous, far more legendary. And the truth was only beginning to surface. Admiral Harrington couldn't concentrate on anything after his strange conversation with Maria. The way she froze when he mentioned a call sign, the fear in her eyes, the way her voice broke when she said she used to be someone else. None of it made sense. Why would a simple janitor react like that? He returned to his office, but his mind kept replaying every detail. He had met thousands of soldiers in his lifetime. Some bold, some scared, some broken, some legendary. Maria's behavior didn't match a civilian at all. She moved like someone who had been trained to survive the impossible. Someone who knew danger so well it had become part of her blood. Whoever she wasn't ordinary. He sat behind his desk and pulled up the personnel database. He typed her name into the system. Maria Dawson. The screen loaded slowly. Too slowly, in fact. Most civilian workers' files popped up instantly. Simple background checks, employment history, nothing special. But not hers. A red warning flashed. Access restricted. Clearance level Omega. The Admiral frowned. Omega clearance was the highest level, beyond standard military access, beyond intelligence divisions. Files sealed with Omega clearance usually belonged to Black Ops operatives, undercover agents, or people involved in missions that officially didn't exist. Why would a janitor have a file higher than his own clearance level? He leaned back slowly, shocked. If he, an admiral, couldn't open her file, then who could? He attempted a secondary search, a backdoor method that only senior officers knew. It didn't reveal her full file, but it displayed a few surface details. Name, Maria Dawson. Status, active, but no listed unit. Classification, confidential. Notes, Information access restricted. Violations punishable under national security protocols. No age details. No education history. No past jobs. No family information. Nothing normal. Just a name. It was like someone had erased her entire life and replaced it with a blank page. He rubbed his forehead. A chill ran through him. Only one type of person had a file like this, operatives from a hidden branch of special operations known only to a handful of people. Operatives who lived without identity, without recognition, without trace. Ghost soldiers. Was Maria one of them? He closed the laptop and stood, pacing across the room. He remembered her reactions earlier. She wasn't scared of him as a person. She was scared of what his questions might unlock. She didn't want to be found. She didn't want to be remembered. And that made him wonder, why had she disappeared? Why had she become a janitor? What was she running from? The Admiral's instincts buzzed with warnings. This was bigger than he expected. Still, something inside him pushed him to understand more. Not to expose her, not to chase her, but to know the truth. Because if someone like her was hiding here on his base, then there had to be a reason. He opened a restricted database connected to old mission logs, ones from covert units he'd occasionally worked with. Most logs were redacted, names blacked out, details erased. But he searched for her nickname anyway. He typed, Night Viper. Only one result appeared. A report dated nearly 9 years ago. Most of the text was censored, but a few words stood out. Night Viper solo infiltration. Mission success. High-value target extracted. Team casualties prevented due to operators' actions. Status. Vanished after mission. Untraceable. The Admiral sat down slowly, absorbing the words. Night Viper wasn't just an operator. She was someone exceptional. Operators with that kind of record weren't common. They were legends inside secret circles. They were whispered about but never seen. And now she was mopping hallways on his base. He exhaled deeply, trying to piece it all together. Why would someone like her, someone who once saved teams, led missions, survived the worst, choose a life like this? Why hide so completely that even her file was locked above an admiral's clearance? He opened another page, this time tracking her entry into the facility. The record showed she applied for the janitor position 5 years ago. Under a different name first, then changed it. A small flag showed her application was approved by external authorization. External authorization meant someone powerful had pushed her through the system. Someone wanted her hidden. Someone wanted her safe. Someone knew who she really was. The Admiral leaned back again, letting the truth settle like a heavy weight. Maria Dawson wasn't appearing out of nowhere. She had been placed here quietly, intentionally. Maybe to protect her. Maybe because she wanted to disappear. Maybe because someone owed her something. But one thing was certain. She did not want to be found. He closed the system and stood by the window, staring at the dark base outside. The wind rattled the flagpole. The parking lot was almost empty. A few lights glowed far away. Somewhere out there, Maria was finishing her shift, thinking she was still invisible. But she wasn't invisible anymore. The Admiral now knew the truth, at least enough to understand the weight of her fear. He whispered the name so softly that even he barely heard it. Night Viper. The name didn't just sound dangerous. It sounded legendary. And now that he knew who she was, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Respect, admiration, and concern. If a woman like her was hiding, what exactly was she hiding from? And how long could she stay hidden before her past found her again? He had no idea that the answer would come much sooner than he expected. Continues at the very moment when the air inside the secure operations room turns heavy. So heavy that even the hum of the fluorescent lights feels louder than usual. Admiral Rourke stands frozen for a second, trying to understand what he is seeing. The video on the screen shows a masked operator fighting with a skill almost impossible to describe. Her movements are fast, sharp, and perfect. Every step she takes looks like something from a highly trained shadow unit. And then he hears it again, softly, through the comms in the footage. A distorted voice saying, Night Viper in position. Grace feels her chest tighten. For years she kept this part of her life buried deeper than anything else. She thought she had finally escaped it. She thought she had left that world behind the moment she walked out forever, choosing her daughter over missions, danger, and secrets. But now her past was playing on a screen in front of the one man she hoped would never discover it. The Admiral turns slowly to look at her. His eyes don't show anger or disappointment. They show shock. Real shock. As if he is seeing two different people standing before him. Grace, the humble janitor, and the unstoppable warrior from the footage. "You were Night Viper?" he asks, but his voice is so low it almost sounds like he's talking to himself. Grace swallows hard, her hands trembling slightly. She doesn't answer right away. She knows that once she says yes, everything will change again. She will no longer be invisible. She will no longer be safe. And maybe she will no longer be able to go back to her simple life with her daughter. "I was," she finally whispers. "A long time ago." The Admiral rubs a hand over his face, pacing once, twice, then stopping right in front of her. "Night Viper was a myth," he says quietly. "We heard stories. A silent operator who slipped into impossible places, rescued people no one else could reach, and disappeared before anyone even realized she was there. Command thought Night Viper wasn't one person but a whole unit." Grace gives a small, sad smile. "It was just me." There is a long pause, like the world is holding its breath. "Why did you leave?" Rourke asks, and for the first time his voice is gentle. Grace's eyes soften, and she looks down at her hands. Hands that once held weapons, now stained with cleaning chemicals from the floors she mopped each night. "My daughter," she says softly. "I couldn't be both. I couldn't keep risking my life and still be the mother she needed. The missions kept getting more dangerous. And one day, I didn't come home on time." She cried the entire night. "I knew then I had to stop." The Admiral listens without interrupting. He sees the strength in her voice, the pain she hides, and the bravery it took to walk away from a world that demanded everything. Before he can speak again, the tech officer interrupts nervously. "Sir, there's more in the file." Rourke nods for him to continue, though his eyes never leave Grace. The screen changes to another video, this one showing classified mission logs, timestamps, and reports from years ago. Each one mentions Night Viper completing near-impossible rescues, saving hostages, dismantling threats, and even preventing a covert attack on a US base overseas. Grace winces slightly. She never liked seeing her work displayed like trophies. She had done what she did because people needed saving, not because she wanted recognition. But now the truth was out in front of everyone. Rourke steps closer, his voice firm but filled with something new. Respect. "Grace, you saved dozens of lives, maybe hundreds, and you did it without asking for credit, without expecting anyone to know." Grace shakes her head. "That part doesn't matter anymore. I don't want to go back. I just want to live quietly." But the Admiral's face changes. He looks troubled, even worried. "Grace," he says slowly, "Night Viper's file didn't just appear out of nowhere. Someone dug this up on purpose. Someone who shouldn't have access. Someone trying to expose you or use you." Her heart stops for a second. All the fear she thought she had buried comes rushing back, sharp and cold. "What do you mean?" she whispers. Rourke turns toward the screen again. "These files were pulled from a system that only top-level intelligence has clearance for. And the timing, right before you used your old call sign earlier, it's not a coincidence." Grace feels like the floor shifts beneath her. Someone out there knows she's still alive. Someone powerful. Someone who wants something from her. Rourke takes a deep breath. "Grace, you might be in danger. And your daughter too." Those words hit her harder than any mission ever did. She grips the edge of the table, trying to steady herself. Her biggest fear, her only fear, had always been that her past would catch up to her daughter. But the Admiral steps closer, his voice steady and reassuring. "You're not alone this time. I won't let anything happen to you. Or your kid." Grace meets his eyes, and for the first time, she sees something in him she didn't expect. Trust. Maybe even admiration. But deep down she knows something terrible. The past she ran from has finally found her. And it won't stop until it gets what it came for. Part 7 begins with a silence that feels louder than anything Grace has heard before. Her mind is spinning, her heart beating in quick, uneven pulses. She stands in the operations room, staring at the dark screen that once showed her past. She wishes she could erase it. She wishes she could go back to being invisible. A janitor, someone no one noticed, someone no one looked for. But that time is gone now. Night Viper is no longer a secret. Admiral Rourke senses her fear. He steps forward, lowering his voice so only she can hear. Grace, you're safe here. I promise you. I'm not letting anything happen to you or your child. His voice is strong, but Grace's fear isn't simple. It isn't about herself. She survived years in the shadows. She knows danger better than anyone. But her daughter is her world. The thought of danger reaching her makes Grace's knees feel weak. How long? Grace finally asks. How long do you think they've been watching me? Rourke shakes his head slowly. I don't know. But this kind of access. This isn't normal. Someone high up is involved. Someone with clearance and a reason. Grace closes her eyes. A long breath escapes her chest. She remembers leaving the unit, handing in her badge, burning everything related to Night Viper. She had disappeared from all known databases. The only way to find her was if someone intentionally went looking, digging through old, sealed information. Someone wants something. Someone dangerous. Rourke signals the tech officer to pull up more data. The young man hesitates. Sir, there's one more thing. A ping from an encrypted channel sent just an hour ago. Connected to the Night Viper file. Grace's stomach tightens. What kind of ping? The tech officer swallows hard. A location request. For your home. Grace freezes. Her breathing stops completely. Her daughter. She had left her daughter at home with a neighbor a few hours ago. Safe, she thought. Safe like always. Rourke reacts instantly. Get a unit to her house now. Grace shakes her head. Her voice shaking. No, I'm going myself. You can't, Rourke starts. But Grace is already moving toward the door. Her body remembers everything, the urgency, the instinct, the readiness. She may have been living a quiet life, but the warrior inside her never died. Not really. It was only sleeping. Rourke catches her arm. Firm but gentle. Grace, listen. You don't know what's waiting for you out there. Grace pulls her arm back slowly. Her eyes are sharp now, calmer, colder. Like Night Viper is waking up. Admiral, my daughter is out there. Nothing is going to stop me. The room goes quiet. Rourke sees something in her eyes that makes his breath pause. Not fear. Not panic. Something far stronger. Something he has only seen in the eyes of elite operators right before a mission. Determination. She is a mother, yes. A janitor, yes. But she is also Night Viper. And Night Viper is unstoppable. Rourke nods. Fine. But I'm coming with you. Grace hesitates. Why? This isn't your problem. It became my problem the moment your name showed up on that screen, he says. And besides, Night Viper may not need backup. But Grace does. The words hit her deeper than she expects. No one has looked after her in years. She has always been the one protecting, saving, rescuing. Hearing someone say she deserves protection feels strange, but warm. They rush out of the base, moving fast across the compound. Rourke calls ahead, ordering a vehicle and a small trusted team. These are not random soldiers, they are people he trusts with his life. As they drive into the night, the city lights blur past them. Grace keeps her eyes on the road, gripping the seat so tightly her knuckles turn white. Her thoughts keep circling back to her little girl. Her smile, her soft voice, the way she hugged her earlier that morning. Rourke breaks the silence. Grace, whoever is behind this, they're not after you because of your past. They're after you because they think they can use you. Grace nods slowly. She knows how this world works. People with power never chase ghosts without a purpose. Whoever dug up her file wants something only Night Viper can provide. A target? A mission? A kill? She hopes she is wrong, But deep inside she knows the truth. Danger has returned, and it wants to drag her back into the shadows. The vehicle speeds into her neighborhood. Grace's chest tightens as she sees the familiar street. But something feels off. Too quiet, too still. The kind of silence that warns a trained operator. "Stop the car," she whispers. The driver brakes instantly. Grace steps out slowly, scanning the area. Rourke and his team follow, weapons ready. Grace doesn't need a weapon. Her eyes, ears, and instincts are sharper than steel. She moves toward her house, each step measured. When she reaches the front gate, she notices something on the ground. A tiny scratch on the lock. Something only she would notice. Someone has been here. Her heart slams inside her chest as she pushes open the door. Rourke stays close behind her. The living room is untouched. Everything looks normal. Too normal. Grace moves deeper into the house, calling softly, "Mia!" Silence. A silence that feels like a knife. She steps into her daughter's bedroom, and her heart breaks. The bed is empty. The window is open. And on the pillow lies something that makes her blood run cold. A black card. The same kind her old unit used for mission summons. But this one has only 2 words written on it. "We found you." Grace's hands shake, not out of fear, but fury. For years she hid. For years she protected her daughter from this life. And now they had taken her. Rourke picks up the card, eyes narrowing. "Grace, they're not just after you. They've started a war." Grace lifts her head slowly. "No," she says. "They've awakened Night Viper." And for the first time in years, she feels it, the fire she once carried. Whoever took her daughter is about to regret it. Begins with a kind of silence that feels almost unreal. Grace stands in her daughter's empty bedroom, her breath shaking as she stares at the open window and the black card left behind. Everything inside her goes cold. Not the cold of fear, but the cold of a mother who has been pushed too far. The cold of someone who once walked through the darkest missions on Earth and survived. Night Viper is awake again, whether she wanted it or not. Admiral Rourke steps closer, analyzing the card. His jaw tightens. "This isn't just a threat," he says. "It's a message. They want you to come to them." Grace already knows. She can feel it like a weight in her chest. Whoever took Mia didn't do it for revenge. They need something from Grace. Something only she can do. But what they don't understand is simple. Taking her daughter was the worst mistake they could ever make. Grace turns away from the room and walks toward the living room, her mind working fast. Her steps are steady, sharp, focused. She may look calm on the outside, but inside her heart is burning. Every skill she ever learned, every instinct she buried, rises again like it never left. Rourke follows her. "Grace, we need a plan. They want to use you. You know that." "Yes," she says quietly. "And I'm going to let them think they can." The Admiral frowns, confused. "What do you mean?" Grace slips on her jacket, her voice steady. "They want Night Viper? They'll get her. But on my terms." Rourke watches her for a long moment. He sees her transformation, the janitor fading, the warrior standing tall again. "You're not doing this alone," he says firmly. Grace meets his eyes. There's no fear in her, only determination. "Good," she says. "Because if they hurt my daughter, I'm tearing down everything they built." The next hours move fast. Rourke takes Grace back to the base, bringing only people he trusts completely. They analyze the card, the timing, the digital trail. The signal leads to an abandoned cargo port on the edge of the city, wide, dark, and perfect for illegal operations. Grace knows the place too well. She once trained there in secret missions. It's the kind of place where rules don't exist. They gear up. Rourke gives her a tactical vest, but she pushes it back. "I don't need heavy gear," she says. "I need speed." He tries insisting, but one look from her ends the argument. She knows her body. She knows how she fights. She is a shadow, not a soldier with noise-making armor. Before they leave, Rourke puts a hand on her shoulder. "Grace, we'll get her back. I promise." She nods, but inside she whispers a promise of her own. I'm coming for you, Mia. No matter what. The team moves out under the cover of darkness. When they reach the port, everything is silent except the wind brushing across empty containers. Too quiet, too controlled. Grace narrows her eyes. This is a trap, but she expected that. The Admiral gives orders to his team to spread out, searching for movement. Grace moves ahead without fear. Her steps are soft, silent, almost invisible. This is her world. She knows how shadows breathe, how danger lives in hidden corners. Finally, she hears it. A faint cry. A child's voice. Mia. Something sharp hits Grace's heart, and she runs toward the sound. She finds a warehouse door slightly open. She pushes through, and her breath catches. Mia is sitting in a chair, unharmed but scared, tied loosely, as if the kidnappers didn't expect a fight. Tears stream down her tiny face, but when she sees her mother, she gasps, "Mom!" Grace kneels and hugs her tightly. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." Before she can untie the ropes, a slow applause echoes through the warehouse. Grace turns. A tall man steps out of the shadows, dressed in black tactical gear, his smile cold. "Night Viper," he says. "I knew taking your child would bring you back." Grace stands up slowly, placing Mia behind her. Rourke and his team burst in moments later, weapons raised. But the man lifts a hand casually. "No need for violence," he says. "I only need one thing from you." He holds up a USB drive. A mission file only you can access, because only Night Viper has the biometric key. Grace remembers that file. It was from her final mission, sealed forever because it held dangerous intel. Intel that no one should ever unlock. She shakes her head. "You're not getting it. That file was locked for a reason." The man's smile widens. "Then I'll have to convince you." But he never gets the chance. Rourke moves first. Grace moves faster. In less than a second, the warehouse erupts into action. Rourke's team takes down the man's guards. Grace attacks the leader herself, silent, swift, deadly. Every move is precise. Every strike is controlled. This is Night Viper in full force. The man tries to escape, but Grace catches him, pressing him against the ground. "You took my daughter," she says. Her voice is calm, but the coldness in it makes him freeze. "No one touches my family." The Admiral arrives beside her. "It's over." Grace steps back, breathing hard. She rushes to Mia, lifting her into her arms. Mia buries her face in her mother's shoulder, safe again. "It's okay," Grace whispers. "I've got you." Rourke walks up, relief flooding his face. "Grace, you did it." She shakes her head softly. "We did it." As dawn rises, the danger fades. The kidnappers are taken into custody. The file remains sealed, and Mia is safe. Grace holds her daughter close as they walk out of the warehouse, sunlight touching their faces. Rourke watches them, a small smile forming. "So," he says, "what now, Night Viper?" Grace looks at her daughter, then at him. "Now?" she says. "Now I go back to being a mom." But Rourke shakes his head gently. "No. Now you go back to being both. A mother, and the strongest woman I've ever known." Grace smiles softly. For the first time in years, she feels whole. Not hiding, not running, not pretending. She is Grace, the single mom janitor. And she is Night Viper, the legend no one believed was real. And now the world knows, you never underestimate a mother.